Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's second video. So we've already had a look at weather next week to 10 days. You can find that video on the homepage. Just scroll down a bit, it's underneath this video and the link ad. So we're going to be seeing a lot of dry weather coming up over the weekend and into next week. The suggestion is that later on next week, around day 9, day 10, we start to break things down and turn things more unsettled. And that's where we're going to pick things up tonight with the GFS Ensemble. Look out, we're going to go through all 21 members of the GFS Ensembles tonight to see what the solutions are showing going through into the start of February. So, before I get on with that, just say about the ads, already mentioned them. There's links to articles on the page. Just have a browse widgets, click through links, see the articles, you're helping us to page the website. And thanks very much for doing that. We're going to start off using the website metrosteel.fr, by the way. Find Metrosteel on the links page. We're going to start off with the control run of the GFS. So this is the control run, and it's just at a slightly lower resolution compared to the operational run. And the operational run is the one that we use for the daily videos when we look at week to 10 days away, and we do week ahead 5-day forecast. That's the operational run. This is the control. It's just at a slightly lower resolution. So picking things up on the 27th of January, where we've got a strong westerly flow coming through. So we've broken down that ridge that's going to be dominating through much of next week. And then we run through up towards day 10, which is between 9th of January, still in this westerly flow. Let's see whether there's any sign of that breaking out. And not really. We do get a little bit of a build of pressure up towards Scandinavia. There's some high pressure rising up there. But essentially, we're still in this westerly Atlantic-driven pattern through to the end of the GFS run, which is today, the 4th of February. Now, this is at the time where we've got this stratospheric warming taking place. So you would normally expect the influence of the stratospheric warming over the North Pole to be occurring 2 or 3 weeks after the warming event takes place. So that places it roughly around the 10th to the 12th of January, of February, I should say, something like that. So you wouldn't necessarily be expected to see much response from that sudden stratospheric warming at this stage, going to the 4th of February. But it will be interesting to see as we run through this. I haven't had a look yet whether there are any solutions that are showing high pressure building to the north. So this is ensemble member number 1, and we find that we're in this westerly flow on the 27th. The Atlantic has broken down the ridge, and ensemble member number 1 keeps things unsettled running through the end of January into the start of February. The idea is high pressure to the south and low pressure to the northwest in a strong west-southwesterly flow. This is ensemble member number 2 for 27th of January, and again we're in a westerly flow with Atlantic-driven weather really dominating the weather, and that continues throughout the run. Again, the idea is high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north into the start of February. Those westerlies coming through. Excuse me. We go through to ensemble member number 3, and this one looks very similar as well, from the 27th of January running out into the start of February. The idea is that it's all high pressure to the southwest, low pressure up to the north and west. There is signs of that ridge beginning to push in on the 4th of February, but it's still essentially centred down to the southwest of the country. This is ensemble member number 4. It's got high pressure over Scandinavia at this point on the 27th of January, but we are placed in this westerly, southwesterly flow, and that flow is the dominating factor, albeit we tried to get the winds into the east. We do get a bit of a build of pressure, and it's trying to push cold air towards us, but essentially we remain up to the 31st of January in an Atlantic driven pattern. However, we go through to the start of February, and that low pressure is getting blocked. It's being pushed down to the southwest. So that does bring in some cold air, particularly to the northern and eastern part of the country around the 1st of February. Those easterly winds are starting to push that cold air towards us. It does keep that low pressure down to the southwest. So that one is a colder one for the start of February. Ensemble member number 4. Ensemble member number 5 looks like this, 27th of January and through to the end of the month, and it looks quite unsettled and Atlantic driven again, and we go through to the start of February still with low pressure to the north and high pressure down to the southwest. Ensemble member number 6 is different. This one has high pressure still holding on the 27th of January. The Atlantic hasn't broken through at that point. And, well, it delays the breakdown of the high pressure a few more days. So we go through to the 30th and the 31st of January, still more or less with that high pressure dominating, still feeding in quite cold southerly southeasterly winds. Eventually, to the start of February, that ridge does break down. I think this is a possibility, actually, what Ensemble member number 6 is showing, which is that again, we delay the breakdown of the high pressure later next week. It's forecast to happen on Thursday, but whether it really does, let's wait and see. This is Ensemble member number 7. This one looks very unsettled, actually really stormy. Look at that. Severe gales blasting the country there on the 1st of February. That one looks really unsettled. And eventually it does turn a bit colder with the wind swinging into the north. Ensemble member number 8 is looking like this. Still high pressure trying to hang on the 27th of January, but it's the Atlantic that's breaking through. It's the Atlantic that's driving the weather. Albeit winds are in from the south with this one, so the ridge isn't far away, but it is the Atlantic that is pushing in, bringing bands of rain and quite mild temperatures too. Ensemble member number 9 looks quite stormy there, going through to the start of February. Low pressure taking a little bit of a southerly trap there as a ridge starts to build. It is trying to push up towards Scandinavia, but nothing really cold up to the end of the run with Ensemble member number 9. Ensemble member number 10 looks like this. Again, it is stormy for the end of January into the start of February. Very Atlantic driven, mild, wet and windy. Ensemble member number 11 looks like this. Very mild, Atlantic driven on the 27th. The Atlantic has already really broken through by that point. And we keep it mild and unsettled there through into the start of February as well with Ensemble member number 11. Number 12, again, Atlantic driven for the 27th of January. And then what happens is that pressure has a go at rising to the east. But really it's the Atlantic that's still the driving force here up to the 4th of February. So again, lots of low pressure driving in from off the Atlantic. The ridge is trying to build to the east, but not quite doing it. This is number 13, and again, it's Atlantic driven for 27th of January. Quite stormy there as well, around the 29th. And then we're trying to build pressure up again as we go through the start of February. The ridge is building back in. That's probably plausible. But the way this winter's gone, it has been a very anticyclonic wind. So very quickly after that unsettled interlude, but we have there at the end of January into the opening days of February, very quickly high pressure builds back up by the 4th of February. No sign of northern blocking though, no sign of any influence from that stratospheric warming at that point. But it is early, you wouldn't really expect it, let's say, until around the 10th to the 12th and beyond that, really. This is Ensemble member number 14. Again, looks very Atlantic driven, low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. Bit of a battering of severe gales coming through there with Ensemble member number 14. Number 15 shows, again, Atlantic-driven weather coming through across the country. And it just stays unsettled really through to the 4th of February, the end of the GFS run tonight, which is 384 hours away. So remaining unsettled and Atlantic driven with Ensemble member 15. Number 16 again looks very stormy and Atlantic driven, although again we do get the high pressure building up and it is trying to get to Scandinavia there at the end on the 4th of February. So again, after that unsettlable stormy interlude right at the end of January into the start of February, yes, high pressure is trying to get up towards Scandinavia and break us out of that unsettled weather. That might be the start of an influence from the stratospheric warming. It's probably a little bit early for that. But it could be. This is Ensemble member number 17, and it's Atlantic driven to start off with on the 27th of January. We carry on running through, and it just stays unsettled and quite stormy there with Ensemble member number 17. Ensemble member number 18 shows, again, low pressure up to the north, high pressure to the south. That looks very stormy there on the 1st of February. That looks pretty horrendous, especially for the southern part of the country. Severe gales coming in there. And I think projection going on a little bit more of a southerly track there. It's very unsettled, and we end up really stormy as well. We certainly know about it if that run came off. Very extreme run in terms of severe gales, bouts of heavy rain, probably snow on the northern side of those areas of low pressure as well. That really would blow the cobwebs away with ensemble member number 18. Number 19, and penultimately, starts off on the 27th of January with high pressure to the south and low pressure up to the north, and we keep it unsettled through to the start of February. However, we do find low pressure taking more of a southerly track, pressure starting to rise up to the north. Now that is interesting. That could be the model responding to that warming that happens at the end of January over stratosphere, over North Pole. Probably a bit early. We're expecting, as I say, more into the second and the third weeks of February. But that's the kind of thing we're going to be looking for, see if we do get a response, to push the jet stream on a more southerly track and to raise the heights. Not necessarily to get northern blocking, but to raise the heights to the north enough to start to push out some colder air from the Arctic and keep these areas of low pressure at bay in the Atlantic. I'm not sure the southern stratospheric warming will be enough to produce proper northern blocking, but that's the kind of thing we're looking for, a rise in pressure and send the jet stream on a more southerly track as our starting point, really, as a response to that stratospheric warming. And then finally, for ensemble member number 20, so it's Atlantic driven to the start of February, and it stays unsettled, really. High pressure has a go at rising to the east, but doesn't really come off, and we just keep it very unsettled there through to the end of the run for February, with low pressure dominating from off the Atlantic. So there's no sign really of any response to that stratospheric warming that's occurring at the end of January. However, we only go to the 4th of February with this. You wouldn't really expect a response until about a week beyond that, to be honest, so don't worry too much about that. It looks like we're going to go Atlantic driven. However, there are a couple of options there to keep high pressure going right to the very end of January. The overall trend of the model and the ensemble, however, is to have us in unsettled weather by the 27th of January, and that takes us through the end of the month, the closing days, and inside of February. So that's probably the way we're going to go. But because the breakdown of the high pressure, I talked about this in the video today, because the breakdown of the high pressure is being put back, and now it's standing on Thursday, week today, when we break down the high pressure, because it's being put back, then we can be entirely sure that it will actually break down. But that's certainly the trend of the model tonight. No sign, as I say, of a response into start of February yet with for that stratospheric warming over the North Pole. We'll wait and see whether the models begin to raise the heights over the next week or so in response to that. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.